SRS, help, SRS. Hey there, guys. Joe Simons, like diamonds, salt strung here. You're wondering, Joe, have you lost your mind? It's SOS. No, it's not. It's SRS, and I truly do need your help, and it's going to take less than 60 seconds. Here's the deal. We've been approached multiple times by these advertisers who want to advertise on our podcast. We've said no to all of them because here's what they want to do. They told us on a 30 to 40-minute show, they want to put 9 advertisements. That means like every few minutes it is going to abruptly stop, and you're going to have to sit through a dumb advertisement. We do not want you to put you through that. It's a bad user experience. We are here to impact as many people as possible. So instead of us taking advertising money, all we ask in return is you do this one thing. It's going to take 60 seconds. It's the SRS. It's subscribe. That takes literally 1 second. If you're on iTunes, pause it right now. You can hit subscribe. If on Stitcher, same thing. So subscribe is number 1. R is review. Just take a few seconds and review this podcast. That's the number 1 way that Apple shares and recommends this to as many people as possible. It helps us make a massive impact and make sure that we never have to put ads on here. And the other one is to share it with anyone you think might love this message. So SRS, subscribe, review, and share. It would mean the world to us, and it helps get this message out there and this podcast out to as many people as possible and keeps it completely ad-free. So here is the message in the podcast for today. Hope you enjoy it. And if you can, please, 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 SRS, help, subscribe, review, and share. Thank you guys. Love you. Talk to you soon.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way.
And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing.
Here's your host, Joe Simons, like diamonds.
How do you explain God to a long-lost friend? Hey, everybody. Joe Simons, like diamonds, Salt Strong Unchurched. We're back again. Let me tell you something. God is making some moves. God is doing some really, really big things. And here's how I know. I've had not one, but 2 different friends. I'm going to call them long lost friends, people I've not seen in years. These are people I've not talked to all the time, sometimes go a couple years without even talking to them. And 2 different people reached out to me here recently out of the blue and said, hey, I really want to talk to you about your faith in God and how you found more happiness and fulfillment through God. And that's really exciting, right? It's awesome that that's happening. It's awesome that they're thinking of me. And gosh, I mean, how cool that God has somehow put it in their mind and in their heart to reach out to me. I'm going to be completely honest with you. The first one who mentioned it, he sent me a text and we were just kind of chatting and catching up on life. I was in my car and I could tell he wanted to say something else, when you could tell someone really wants to bring up something. And we'd already been talking for 15, 18 minutes. And I was about to get back to my house and I really had to run. And I was like, hey man, anything else going on? Like, it was kind of like that awkward ending. Like, do you hang up now? And he's like, yeah. And I just kind of wait. He goes, I really want to pick your brain on just how you found God and how you got faith. And I was like, whoa. I was like, really? I was like, what, like, do you mind sharing what's going on? And I hadn't ever talked to this person about any of this stuff. And by the way, this is one of my college drinking buddies, to put in perspective. So the last time we were together, the last conversations were not anything around faith. And he says, I've kind of feel like I've been lost. I've tried a lot of things and I've tried nothing, meaning, just kind of being like an atheist and not really believing in anything. As I've read a lot about everything, about Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, like just everything. And I said, wow. I was like, well, this is a whole lot more to unpack than I can do here in my car in just a couple of minutes. It's like, let's set up a call and just talk a little bit more. And I wanted to hear his story about, what he has been through. And it turned out, he had been burned by a church and just had really highly negative feelings about church in general. And I also want to be honest and say I was nervous as can be, right? I mean, it's so cool. I pray that God brings the right message every week on Unchurched, and I pray that God brings people to ask me questions. Obviously, I can't save someone. The only you and in your relationship with Jesus Christ can you save yourself. I can lead you to the right place, just like a good pastor can. But I'm not a miracle worker. I'm not a pastor or anything. And so I'll be honest, I was nervous. I was like praying constantly before our actual talk, like what to say. And finally, God just put it on my heart. I was trying to come up with this smart things to say, and God just put it on my heart, and He says, just talk and listen and ask questions about where they are and what they're confused about. And I did, and we had a magnificent talk. And instead of going to Bible verses, because I think that's what sometimes hardcore pastors and even sometimes hardcore Christians do, is they see this opportunity. They have someone who's come to them who is lost, right? Maybe it is an old long lost friend. Maybe it's just someone, a neighbor or something, and they want something more, and they come to this, let's just say, Jane Doe Christian, and they just start spewing all these Bible verses and all this stuff. When hey, you have to do this, and you have to read the Bible every day, and you can never miss a church service, and you got to get involved in this church. And I'll be honest, that can be overwhelming for a lot of people. And so, thankfully, I just felt called to do kind of the opposite, and just tell real life stories. And I will be honest, like some of the things I told them was like, I've done life with and without money, and definitely having money was a little bit better. I've done life with and without God. And there was many years when I was hanging out with this person, I was doing life kind of without God. And I'll just say, man, without a doubt, doing life with God and with Jesus in my life has been a million times better. Same with our company. The second that Salt Strong, was always run by the same two guys, and that we'd call ourselves Christians from even the day that we started it. But as soon as we put on our site and told our employees and told our clients that, and right there in our mission statement on our About page, that we're doing all of this to serve God and to serve Jesus Christ. And as soon as we started doing that and really just said, God, this is your company. We're going to trust that you bless it. And we're going to trust that you open the right doors and that you take it to wherever you want it to go, not just where we want it to go. And ever since we did that, everything has been better. And it turned out, I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about the first person, because we talked a long time, like over an hour on this. The second person, not as long, but both people who really had just felt lost and wanted something new, and knew I was doing, some of this unchurched stuff, and knew that I'd really kind of taken a pivot in life. And also, they had seen from at least the outside looking in that, man, everything just seemed like I was happier, more fulfilled, and had just an awesome life and an awesome family life. And both of these people were at times in their lives where stress was an all-time high. And I thought that was interesting. And just to the point, they weren't having fun. They were just constantly overwhelmed. They were constantly just wondering what's next. And to me, that's one of the beautiful things about trusting in God and then trusting in Jesus, that, we can't control the future. We can control our actions, our day-to-day actions, and we can trust God that He is going to open up the right doors, that He does have a plan, that He knows our next steps. And if you know that, that He's got your back and He's never going to put you through anything you can't handle, then all of a sudden life gets a little bit easier, right? Life gets a whole lot less stressful when you put everything in God's hands. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to have fear on occasion. That doesn't mean you're not ever going to be stressed out. That certainly doesn't mean that, everything's just going to be easy and you're just going to live completely carefree. There are going to be times when maybe some stress or anxiety comes in to play. But every time that does for me, I just hand it over to God, and it's just like this weight is lifted off my shoulders. And I shared that with both of them. Like, man, I kind of want some of that. And and my mom, if she's listening, and my dad, just two amazing examples of that. People that I see rarely stressed out and have a lot on their plate, and have had a lot on their plate for many, many years, and still do to this day, with a disabled person my brother, their son in their house 24/7. That's a lot. And it's a lot to ask for someone it's 70 years old to lift them and to take care of them. And there's probably, for most people, if they were 70, all right, man, what happens if something happens to me? Or not necessarily passing away, but what happens if all of a sudden, I break a leg or something bad happens? How are we going to lift him? How are we going to take care of him? And every time my parents even get remotely to that point of getting some overwhelm or anxiety, they're just like, God, I know you have a plan. I know you wouldn't have put Dan the man in our possession if you didn't have an 100% plan for it, that it was going to work out perfectly, because God's plan is perfect. And as soon as you do that, all of a sudden, all right, all that stress, all that big burden of what if, it's just kind of gone. And instead of what if, it's like, man, it's already been done. It's already been planned. Isn't that awesome? And God's will is perfect. God's plan is perfect. Then why should we even be worried about it? And I felt like the stress levels in my life have gone down drastically since I just started trusting in God and praying more. It was also interesting. Neither of these two guys or their families, prayed at all. And I was like, that's a good place to start. And I was like, I would encourage you to get into a church, but you don't have to. I'm just being honest. Because once again, I think if you just say you have to do all these things, you got to go to church every week, got to read the Bible every day, and get in Bible study, all that stuff's great. That's where you want them to go. But it also, like anything in life, just like if someone's trying to lose 30 pounds, you don't tell them they got to work out 7 days a week. They're just probably not going to do it. Let's start with 2 days a week. Let's start with 3 days a week. Let's start with 1 day a week, right? Let's start jogging. Let's even start walking a mile, right? Before you run a marathon or even run a 5K, you know what? Let's go walking for 20 minutes. So I think it's so important, if this does happen to you, is to start off small and just be honest. Tell them your story. Because even with me, I didn't all of a sudden one day decide I'm going to be a Christian. I'm going to start Unchurched. These were all small steps. So many of us forget that it was a journey for us to get here. And if you're already there, it was a journey for you to get there. And for some of us, we're just taking our first steps. And that's the way we need it. We need to take bite-sized steps. It's really, really tough to just jump into something like that and all of a sudden become Mr. Uber perfect Christian, right? And I'm being sarcastic there, but you know where I'm going with it. So once again, here's why I know God is doing just some amazing things. These two friends both reached out around the same time, like within the same week, and just had some amazing conversations, and we'll continue to have conversations on it. And then I had more and more people who have watched the video on anxiety that I put out there on YouTube a while back. And that's been one of the main questions is, all right, I get the breathing part. I get this whole kind of mission and purpose, but how do I trust God in all this? And it can be tough. I know when I was at kind of my lowest lows with anxiety attacks, it was really, really tough to kind of trust God. And I'll be honest, there were some times where I kind of blamed him and like was just super, super frustrated. It's like, God, if you're real, why am I going through all of this? And I didn't understand it. Now, looking back, I understand. And I could say this without a shadow of a doubt. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because one, now I'm able to share this with others and really empathize with them, right? And have true empathy and understand exactly what they're going through and all the fears in their head. Whereas, most doctors just prescribe a pill because they honestly can't relate to it unless you've really dealt with heavy anxiety attacks and panic attacks for many years. And two, it's made me stronger. It's made me stronger than ever. It's made me more confident than ever. It's enabled me to do things now that I never could have done without that confidence. And so I'm very, very, grateful for that. But in general, I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for Jesus. I'm grateful for them giving me life and giving me breath and just blessing me constantly. And I'll continue to have better answers, I know, as time goes on. When someone does reach out to me and say, "Hey, tell me how you found God. Tell me how you found faith." But right now, I think the easiest thing is just to be honest and tell stories and tell how it's changed your life. And I think the second you can tell someone I don't feel the overwhelm like I used to. I don't have the anxiety like I used to. Isn't that the irony, right? The times that I had the worst anxiety attacks were when I was not really trusting God and really had God as like way. I was still call myself a Christian, but I was way in the back seat. And as soon as I started putting God first and actually for a while there in writing, thanking him for my anxiety and being grateful for it, that was when all of a sudden everything started shifting. It was really like this slow, it wasn't like a one-day transformation, but it was this slow transformation where all of a sudden I kept giving more and more of my life to God and more of my trust, more and more of my faith. And all of a sudden, new doors started opening up. The anxiety started slowly going away. All of the negative things in my life, the stress and the overwhelm and the what ifs and the fear, it all started to kind of slowly melt away. And is it a coincidence? I think not. Right? And there's been so many people who have similar stories like that. So once again, I share that with them, and I just wanted to share it with you because I was like, wow, I didn't even know how to title this one as what to tell a friend when a long lost friend when they reach out to you about God, or is God's doing big things out there, but he is. I mean, these are just two of my random friends, right, who happen to think of me. Who knows how many millions of others are feeling that same overwhelm, and they're feeling this burden, and they're just confused, and they know there's something more to life, and they want something more for themselves and for their kids, and they're just dying to hear from someone who could speak a little truth into them and love them unconditionally, right? I think that was I could just tell that there was a little bit of embarrassment about even asking, right? It's almost like, hey, I kind of should know some of this stuff, but I don't. Where do I even begin? And so just be willing to be there for others. And when you do have conversations with maybe friends or family, and there is that awkward silence, and you could tell they want to ask something, and if you know they've been struggling with things like that, whether it's alcohol or stress or porn or whatever, any kind of addiction or just loneliness, right? Depression, anxiety, etc. Sometimes just start that conversation and don't try to slap them with a Bible. Just start the honest conversation about, hey, where are you right now? And what are you struggling with? How can I pray over you? It's amazing what doors and conversations open up when you ask that. And one pastor told me the thing he always says is, what's one thing I can pray over you right now? Because it's a completely different conversation when you just say, hey, is there anything I can pray over you for? And they're like, no. But if you say, hey, what's one thing in your life right now? All of a sudden their mind is triggering to that one thing that's on their mind that's usually stressing them out or giving a little bit of overwhelm. And usually they will say, well, you know what, if you are going to pray, maybe even say, I don't even believe in this stuff, but if you want to pray over me, pray over this one thing and see what happens. So just wanted to share all this with you. A really, really neat time for me to be able to share this with some old friends. And I'm if they happen to be listening, I'm super grateful that you guys even reached out to me. And I'm hopefully it was a helpful and fun conversation. And I hope it opens up the right doors for you. Like I said, there's only so much I can do and so much you can do for friends. But if you can just be that catalyst that opens up the door for them to explore more and to be a little bit more curious and to really have that relationship with God, right? Because that's what we all want for ourselves, for our kids, for our friends and loved ones, for the whole country and the whole world, really. It's just to start that conversation. So I thank you guys, and I love you all. And if you have any questions or thoughts or things that you've done when this same kind of opportunity or a question or old friend comes out of the blue and asks that question, I'd love to hear from you. My email is joe@saltstrong.com, and I will talk to you on the next episode. 'Cause fishing